instead of watching everybody else. Start watching yourself. If you watch yourself, be honest with yourself and ask yourself, am I putting in the most amount of work for the longest amount of time, being the most disciplined version of myself to get to the highest level of myself? Or is it because there's so much BS out here in the world, I'm buying it? I'm actually buying the bullshit, and I'm convincing myself to believe that I could have what I want before it's time. Now, let me prove to you that you can't. Not that you can't have what you want, but that you have to wait. You have to give it the time that it takes. All right? If you want to cook a meal, no matter what you say, it's going to take a certain amount of time for the meal that you cook to actually become the meal that you want. So let's just keep it simple. You might want some eggs, right? Some scrambled eggs. Well, first off, you've got to crack the eggshell, right? If you don't crack the eggshell, you're going to get a boiled egg, right? So you got to crack the egg. After you crack the egg, then you got to decide, do you want egg whites, or do you want to just mix it all up, get that nice yellow egg yolk / egg white mixture, and then you have to decide what you want to put in it. Is this going to be an omelet or just some scrambled eggs? You're going to put some cheese on it, whatever, right? So let's say we decided you want to have, just basic scrambled eggs. When you pour it, into the pan, if the pan is not hot, well, now you got to wait for the pan to heat up. If you heat the pan up before you pour the eggs in, now you still got to wait for the pan to heat up. So you have to be patient, because even if you do everything right, you crack the egg, you mix it up, let's say you put some milk in it, whatever you put in it, you mix it all up, make it fluffy, still got to wait for the pan to heat up. And there's a certain amount of time that's going to take for that pan to heat up. That's depending on what temperature you set it on, but it's also just depending on the fact of the laws of physics that you have no control over. You just have to observe these laws and these facts. All right, after it heats up and you've done everything right, you cracked the egg, you whipped it up, you heated up the pan, it's ready to go. When you pour the eggs in that pan, you might instantly hear it start to sizzle. It's starting to cook, but it's not going to be done right away. It's still going to take a certain amount of time. And also, you want to scramble it, you can't just let it sit there. You got to whip it up while it's on that hot pan, because there's a certain amount of time that that part of the egg can sit on that part of the pan before it burns and becomes something that you can't even eat, right? So I'm going to stop right there. I think that's a great enough analogy when you think about success and being patient. What does it take? It takes breaking down something as simple as cooking an egg and realizing that if you would just stop for a second and look at all the little things that you do in your life right now, and you say to yourself, let me just take one thing I do and let me break it down and see how much I've accepted patience in my life already, and to see how I can pull from these things that I'm already committed to being patient about and apply it to things that I haven't committed my patience to. Because then you'll see that you already have the capacity to do this. But your problem is that you just don't understand the connection points between what you already do and what you want to do. And I'm telling you right now, that's patience in a nutshell. Just being willing to wait for what you want. And more importantly, being willing to wait and work for what you want. I say that's patience. The only reason why you'll do it is because you'll select that level of patience for that selected outcome. Because you'll know for a fact, if you keep doing everything the same way you've been doing it, well, you're going to get the same results, right? And that's not what you want. But you've been kind of waiting for so long that you don't realize that You've conditioned yourself to not have the things that you really want by not being patient. And then you call that an identity. And that kind of identity we know sucks. And all of us have to deal with this. All of us have dealt with it. And all of us are dealing with it right now. How do I know that? Because success means in succession. I don't care what success you've already had. I don't care how big you already are. You can lie to yourself, but you can't lie to me. Most people say you can lie to me, but you can't lie to yourself. But I'm going to tell you the other way around. I know you want more. I know even if people are gassing your head up, making you feel like the biggest person in the world, I know you don't think that. I know you see the top of the mountain that you're already focusing on, while they only see the top of the mountain that's under your feet. In succession means we have to keep going. We have to be willing to wait and work for what we want. Now, let me give you a few physical pointers that can help you do this when your patience is being tested. Because that's the thing that a lot of people don't talk about. It's not patience alone, it's the test of patience that most people fail. And then it's almost like a drug. You just relapse because the identity that you have when you identify with not being where you want to be, not being who you want to be, that identity is draining your energy. And you're accepting it though, because there's physics and metaphysics that's keeping you anchored where you are. And so you got to get going, right? So when your patience is being tested, what a lot of people don't realize is also something else that you're already doing that you can take control over. And by taking control over that, you can control everything else. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about breathing. Right now, while you're watching this video, you're breathing. You didn't even think about it until I said it, because you've been blessed to be able to involuntarily breathe. So you don't have to think about it. That's what I call the gift and the curse. The gift is the obvious. The breath is the sustainer of life. Without the breath, there is no life, right? That's the gift. And you don't have to work so hard for it because your body is already involuntarily programmed to keep taking those breaths even when you're not doing the right things for yourself, even when you're not thinking well, even when you're not feeling well, right? But now we're going to kind of transition that idea over to voluntarily breathing. Wow. Think about your breathing. Now, most people, when you don't have any breath work practice, you're not practicing controlling your breathing. When someone says, think about your breathing, it could create anxiety. So if you feel that way, then definitely make sure you stay and listen to the rest of this video, because I don't want to leave you in that state of anxiety. I want to leave you in a state of mental sobriety and realize the power in that consciousness over the breath. All right. So the reason why I say controlling your breathing is because you want to give life to the things you want to give life to. If you're talking about creating an idea and you feel anxiety, so you can't really breathe properly, you feel like you can't, control your breath, then that means that you're not able to give proper life to the idea that's in your head, because the minute you start thinking about it, the one thing that you need to sustain your life starts to go out of control, aka your breathing. Excuse me. So you want to learn how to control your breathing involuntarily. And the best way that I've seen that is to breathe in through your nose. And when you breathe in through your nose, you make sure you breathe into your stomach first. Because most people do a lot of shallow breathing. They just breathe into the upper respiratory, right? Unless they're like trainers, runners, very physically fit, they learn how to, deal with their breath. But most people who are not athletes, they don't really think about breathing at all. So they don't really do deep breathing. And why is it important to breathe deeply? Well, because that's where all the magic is. Like when you can breathe deeply, you control it, because you realize that not only can you just control the fact that you take a breath, but you can control the fact of how you take a breath by breathing deeply into your stomach first. And then what happens is, by breathing into your stomach first, you're actually consciously, intentionally breathing into the lower respiratory first. And by doing that, you start to feel the other parts, like the mid respiratory and the upper respiratory. you start to feel that by filling up that lower respiratory, you can say, wow, I didn't realize I can go further. And then you fill up that mid respiratory. Wow, I didn't realize I can go further. And then you fill up that upper respiratory. You can literally feel it. You can literally feel it like right up here, expanding. Like, let's do that a couple of times. I'm walking out here and look at how much it's going to give me the control even while I haven't stopped moving yet. And see, that's a really good, important point. I'm able to control my mindset and my physiology, which is like the mind and the body, how they work together. You know, you can Google that word and go on a deep dive. But I'm also able to control those things because I'm able to control my breathing. And I'm able to control my breathing really because I'm able to control how I breathe, the depth of my breathing. So I'm gonna do it again. And you can tell you're doing it right because your head will kind of rock back a little bit when you get to the top. Now this video has already been long, so I'm gonna do some more videos on breath work. But I wanted to just tell you that when do you do what I'm doing? Like right now I'm telling you, take these deep breaths. So when do you do them? Well, you do them anytime you want. But more importantly, when you feel you're challenged, something is testing your patience, next time that happens, I want you to pay attention to your breathing. And you're going to realize you don't really have control over it. And because of that, you don't have control over your heart rate, your blood flow, your nervous system, anything. You just lose control over everything. And you're more likely to be controlled by some external source at that point. So people get into fights, arguments, stuff like that because they don't have this knowledge. People also, they get into failure because they don't have this knowledge. They don't realize that you probably never, I'm telling you right now, if you don't know about this, you haven't really correlated how your body feels when you make a bad decision that makes you a failure. You don't even think about how your body feels when you even think about being a failure. When you think about being impatient and not having what you want, and you start to identify with failing, losing, your body goes into a physiological panic, like a crazy mode. And it's not a good feeling. It's not a good feeling. So this is how you work your way out of it. Now, anything can challenge this part of you. It could just be having a conversation with someone at work, a business partner, and even yourself. You could even have a conversation with yourself where you realize, I'm not feeling good about how I'm feeling about myself. I'm not feeling good about where I'm at right now. And because of that, I'm allowing myself to go into a panic mode or a depressive mode, an anxious mode. And the only thing you can do when that hits you is either succumb to it as a weakness, give in, or you can actually breathe your way out of it. Now, a lot of people, when they first hear this, it sounds like kind of spooky or whatever to them, and they feel like it's not real. But it is. And I'm going to prove it to you right now. I'm going to stop right here while I'm at this tree. And together we're going to take 5 breaths. Here we go. Let's take this first one. Breathe deeply into your stomach. Breathe out your mouth. That's 1. Number 2. Here goes number 4. Last one, number 5. Now, I don't know about you, but I feel better. And actually, I do know about you. You do feel better. And this is the reason why I know that this works. And I know something as simple as that can change your life, especially when it comes to you being patient, properly patient. Now, I told you how to do it. Let me tell you when to do it. Hinted at that a little bit earlier, but I want to make it explicitly clear. You do it anytime that you want to have a positive outcome. It sounds like your whole life, right? So you learn to live with this level of control, this level of discipline. Even intentional breathing, or what they call breath work, is a discipline. And when you first try to do it, I know this from my own personal experience, you're not going to even feel like you can fully breathe all the way, especially if you're not currently exercising and stuff like that, because your lung capacity is not at its full capacity. Because even though the lungs are wired to work involuntarily, there's still muscles involved. And those muscles, just like any other muscles, they need to be trained. And the crazy part that I've learned from my own personal experience is that you don't even need to run or even do cardio to train your breathing capacity, your lung capacity. You just have to actually intentionally breathe. Now, I can tell you this, I do believe that you can do it a lot quicker if you are working out and training, but I don't want to make you feel like that's a prerequisite, because it's not. And I know that because I like to train and stay fit most of the time, for sure. But I've had times where I wasn't training and I was intentionally breathing. And trust me, it's a real thing. You can increase your lung capacity, which means your breathing capacity, by intentionally, voluntarily breathing. Now, when do you do this? You do it anytime, but let me be more specific. Let's say somebody's messing with you, or let's say you find yourself at a point where you're thinking badly about your life or about your progress in your career, your business, your relationship, whatever. That's the best time for you to stop. As soon as you become conscious of what's going on that you don't like, as soon as you realize, I'm really that happy about this, I'm not feeling this, that's when you should automatically go into controlled breathing. And as soon as you do it, you're going to change your entire system. Your physiology is going to change. And that's going to put you at a point where you're able to actually control that outcome. So, because the outcome really is the income. It's like, what are you allowing into you, into your mind, your body, your spirit, your attitude? What are you allowing to penetrate that? And how is that controlling your outcome? Because these things are really deep, and we'll go into this deeper on another video because I don't want to keep you guys too long. But when you think about being patient, just remember you have to define these words. Any word that you ever have a problem with, define it first before you try to solve the problem. All right? When you define these words, you're going to realize that I'm giving my own definition. I don't really have to go to the dictionary for, because I think about how it applies to my life, and how it shows up in my life is I'm very selectively patient. I'm not always patient, but when I'm dealing with people, for the most part, I am, because I feel like that's one of the best places to be patient. When I'm dealing with my business, that's one of the best places to be patient. If I'm dealing with my child, that's one of the best places to be patient. But I'm not always patient. And so I do decide to be. So my definition of patience would be the will to wait and work for what I want. Because I know I deserve it. You deserve it. You deserve whatever you can think of. As they say, whatever the mind can conceive, you can achieve. So anything that you have on your heart, on your mind, or on your spirit that you really want to get done, it's already done. It's got to cook though. It's going to take a certain amount of time. You go sit down at a restaurant, you don't say, I want the salmon and the wild rice and, whatever, some broccoli. And I want it right now. That's fast food. Fast food is cheap and most of the time non-nutritious. So when you want something to go in to create a good outcome, then you want something nutritious. Meaning you gotta wait and work for what you want. Sometimes you've already done the work. Like you got the money, you just need to order something, right? Whenever you order it though, you have to wait for that too. You have to wait for the time it takes for it to go from, even if it's somebody bringing something out the back and giving it to you, you have to wait for that. All right? So this is a good place for me to stop. I don't think I'm gonna do any editing, so if there's any crazy parts to this video, like, comment, subscribe, share, click the bell for notifications. Should have said that in the beginning, but I'm saying it now. And each one teach one, each one reach one. I appreciate all of you guys. Much love. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.